Okay. My love.
Yes.
There is a meme that's currently going around on the internet, and it's something to this effect, that our careers are a direct reflection of a trauma response. Discuss. Because to me, I feel like, I'm like, oh my God, that's called me out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And I don't think this is a secret anyway. You know, we talk about the wounded healer. The best, I guess, healers and therapists that I've connected with have all had complex trauma that I know of. And it's through that trauma that we have learned to develop just such a high level of empathy for others that are going through that. It's like, you know, I was talking about learning to sing. It would be like me going to someone who does not have a background in vocals or singing to learn how to sing. You know, when you're going to work through life and the experiences you've had and the pain and the hurt, and also looking at patterns and awareness, who better to understand it than someone who's been through it, or maybe even still to a degree might be still going through it. So yeah, I can safely agree with that meme. It was not a joke.
It feels like it though. I mean, like, do you feel like it's reflective of career choices you made even before you came into the healing space?
100%, if I can use as an example.
Yeah.
So growing up, there was a lot happened to me around body image. You know, not being small enough, not being beautiful enough. So naturally, I went towards the fitness industry. It was my first job that I went to working in the fitness industry, because it was all about aesthetics and appearance and creating all of this external validation so that eventually I could feel more love. And since we're on this topic, and I'll be even more vulnerable, my next job after that, for 9 years, I was working as a professional dominatrix. Okay, so I went from external validation into another industry where I was getting worshipped from the opposite sex, where I was also working through some of my own trauma about taking my power back and dominating in a way and having a voice and being assertive and learning boundaries, and also holding space for some incredible people to explore this interesting field. And as we know, a lot of that is all connected to trauma too. So I think we can safely say the experiences I had from that to now what I do working as a therapist and healer, all of my choices have reflected that, and I've learned something different through each stage.
Yes. And you've arrived in the wholeness of that realization, and everything has contributed to being like to where you're being sort of the most amazing therapist and healer now.
Yeah. So that's that's safe to say all of those dots connect. And what about you?
Yeah.
When you have a look at what you've done in the past, your choices.
So much. I was thinking about this on my walk yesterday. I had this flashback to being a child and having what I now know is maybe like a mild to medium form of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, where I thought that if I did certain things and like made sure that I was like super, you know, like even just ridiculous things like don't step on that crack, step on here and da-da-da, and then like the world is going to be okay. Life is going to be okay. Or my family, my dad, my mom, my pets are going to be fine. And it was all this kind of control to be able to make sure that the world was okay, right? And I surfed that for so many years and had this overwhelming sense of like, I need to care for the world, which ultimately was always reflective of like, I need to care for myself, right? Like I need the world to be okay so I'm okay, because I was so deeply feeling. I didn't know what being an empath even was, because I had this gigantic energetic field and could see and feel and read things and didn't know what that was until many, many, many years later. And so my way of controlling that and making sense of it in the world was to be like, okay, I'm going to make deals with you, whatever this is, and do these things so that you make sure things are okay. And so then I moved into a world of, like I studied international relations, politics, all the sort of outside
Interesting. Yeah.
dynamics of the world, so that I could then move into international aid and development and work to heal the world, right? But it was always a response to that sensation I had as a child of this, almost like this responsibility to take care of the world. I mean, like, what the? But I think a lot of people do, and a lot of deep feeling children do feel like this sense of, I need to help. I need to do something to help. And growing up in Singapore as well, I was very aware of all of these things happening in the world at the same time. And so, yeah, my career in that space, working for the UN, working for various NGOs and the like, that was a response to trauma that I felt at being so out of control as a kid and needing to help, and that projecting that outwards,
Right.
and not knowing that I needed to really stabilize myself internally.
So it sounds like a part of you was really trying to help you by doing this kind of work where you could deeply care and help and support. And what do you think in terms of feeling? How were you looking to feel by exploring working in that industry, or doing that? Safe. Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And because my nervous system was so wide open to the influences of the outside world, and my energetic makeup is still like that, I had to, that was like the only thing that made sense to me, was to help the world so that I could feel safe, and so that I could feel like I could rest because I did my best to help that day.
And I'm curious, how do you manage that now?
So because I've done the from the outer development to the inner development journey, that was like over a decade of my life. And then the last decade has been in the inner development space, because I really saw how even the people who were working in that space were affecting their capacity and ability to help the world, because they hadn't necessarily looked at their stuff. And by they, I also include myself, because when you go into a space of altruism or wanting to contribute, and you haven't done the shadow work, or you haven't done the ego work, you haven't done the parts work, then you end up projecting a lot onto a situation rather than actually allowing for the best thing to emerge that needs to emerge. You're always kind of putting your own slant on it, and it's not effective. And so when I went into the own inner development work and then like the spiritual work, and that emerged for me, and then kind of my soul work just came out of that and started to lead, I realized, oh, okay, so this is where it actually all begins. And the more people that we have working in so many different ways and so many different fields and industries, but that have done the work. So I worked with like members of parliament through to like architects or whatever. It's like, I think everyone needs to have done the work, or at least be aware that there's work to be done. And then what they have to contribute in the world is going to be far more effective and more beneficial than like this sort of reflection of wanting to either make things safe or assert an egoic intention on the world.
Or
it's
being
like,
quite loud with verbal broadcasting
yes,
or protests
or
things like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
or being enraged constantly.
Rather than actually doing some work that is
Yes.
actually supporting the collective.
That actually helps
Yeah.
move us forward, which I feel like we tend to forget that our external realities are a co-creation of everything that we have projected from within us, right? We're creating a reality that's knitted together, and that's reflected back to us from the outside world. And so if we are not cleaning up our side of the street and expecting that the outside world is going to be great and it's going to be, perfect, then we're mistaken, because we do need to clear up our side of the street before it will be reflected back to us in the external world.
It's so interesting. I did, just hearing you speak about this has made me think of my work and that I've done, and I started on the outside too. It was actually working with a lot of light. before going into the darkness. And I know that was my journey to have. But then when I remember one day, someone asked me a question. I can't remember who it was exactly, but they asked me a question around, what is the most memorable times and experiences you've had in your life? And the first things that were popping into mind were all the very dark and, trauma-inducing and experience and dark times, because out of that darkness, so much light was come. And then even working as a therapist and healer now, my work was always in the light first. That's how it started, until I realized that I couldn't access fully my light and that it was necessary to go into the depths. And by me going in and being vulnerable enough and trusting enough to explore the darkness would allow me to experience like a more, consistent place where I could handle all the stuff that's happening in the world or around me, or people that I meet, or situations that I might encounter. And for me, that is the work. It's also embodying, I guess, the golden part of that darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I honestly would not fully trust any energetic practitioner who doesn't know how to traverse the dark.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
not in like a suspicious way, but I just would not trust to be held in a space within my own inner transformation by somebody who does not know what it is to be in the dark and lead people through it.
Yeah.
And also know that sometimes it is absolutely crucial and critical to be in that void, in that space of the fertile darkness for a period of time and not prematurely ripped out of it and optimistically shifted and shape-shifted out of it, because you actually do become like, you see, it's your becoming in those dark fertile spaces, and being able to recognize that in a client and not need to pull them out of the earth,
rush them,
like
rush
pull the
the
seed
process.
out, or rush any kind of process. It's like, actually, how do we ease the nervous system in place?
Yeah, to be able to have the capacity to handle this period of time. I couldn't agree with that more. That's actually something that's I'm very passionate about, of knowing when it's time to start what I call decorating the house instead of cleaning it. There is a period of time where we need to do the cleaning. And again, life is so cyclical, right? Like, something will come up and it's like, okay, now we're doing that. And having the nervous system that has the capacity to go there, and it's safe to go there, and it doesn't mean we're going to spiral out of control.
Yes.
I was working with a client recently, let's call them Sam. And Sam has done a lot of incredible work with processing their trauma through EMDR and memories and experiences, and is now in what I call the second awakening, which is sitting in the shadow part. And we had this conversation about how actually right now there's nothing to be done. The only thing to be done is to actually just sit and allow whatever needs to come through. When you have a look at all of these, like ascended masters and philosophers and yogis and, all these people who we, read books about and listen to, they all had periods of actually going and wandering in the desert. Like Jesus, he wandered for, 40 days, 40 nights, going through his process. That's quite quick, actually, when you think about it. But, this Sam was talking about how they'd been in it for 9 months. And I'm like, oh, actually, that's okay. I mean, I was in it for most of my life.
Yeah. Several years.
But even when I moved to Bali, I was in that for a solid 14 months, I think, where it's kind of like, oh. But then within that period, just learning how to expand your nervous system, it all comes back to nervous system for me, learning how to expand it and have this capacity to handle and to feel safe to sit with the darkness of yourself sometimes, and having been able to witness that. And I feel like we can find positivity, right, within that, because with darkness there is always light. So that thing that you hate about yourself, or perhaps you don't want to face about yourself, there'll always be a light side of it, because it's bringing you back to who you truly are. And if you can, Carl Jung says this, it's the privilege of a lifetime to become who you truly are. But that does require having a look and being brutally honest. Sometimes we can do that on our own. Most of the times we need support with that. And
Yes.
finding a person who has been through that to support you, like coming back to what you were saying, is, for me, one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. It's a gift you can give yourself to find a practitioner who understands and is safe and okay not to rush the process with that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Because oftentimes those parts of us that we've rejected or that we have sealed off, they sit like here and like just behind us. They're like around here in the field. And so what you need is a really good mirror.
An amazing mirror.
Who's able to be like, hey, like
Yeah.
here are those things and there's nothing to be afraid of. And look actually at the beauty of it. And something that I love to use as a reframe for my clients is that the thing that you are most afraid of claiming of yourself, of being within yourself, is actually the thing that people love the most about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually, and like I would ask the question, what if completely being that thing, that part of me that's like, oh, I just reject that, or I've sealed that off as like, that's not who I am. What if being that is what brings everything else online in your life?
Yeah. I mean, that's the premise of shadow work, right? We recognize, we confront it, and we integrate it into our lives because there are no bad parts. Now, that is to a T what I would call self-love. If someone asks me what self-love, it's not
Bubble
buying
bars.
flowers, it's not going to a day spa,
Yep.
it's not, eating your favorite food. It's none of that at all. It's like, what do I hate about myself? How can I allow that part some space, and how can I integrate that? That is self-love. Because if you can love all parts of yourself, you will feel whole, and you already are whole. Like there is no missing or broken pieces. It is integration of all the parts. It is effing hard.
It is so hard.
To begin with, but with the right support and looking at it, and this is where the positivity part comes in, and where I work a lot with frequency around that, is we can actually manifest that we are that person. We can step into that version who is actually able to sit in darkness and allow it and find light within that.
Yes.
Like, we can create that. So it doesn't have to be, oh, now I have to go through this big dark stuff and life is crap and blah, 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 and there's an eclipse and Mercury's in retrograde and and
Woe is
all of
me.
these,
It's
and
all
woe is
horrible.
me. Like, we don't need to be a victim in this process. We don't, if we set the premise it's going to be really hard,
Sure.
it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
But if we set the premise that now it's time for me to expand, and I think we've spoken about this before, especially with working with leaders and coaches and healers and people that are high performers and high achievers and all of this stuff, it's like, oh, I'm feeling this certain way and I should be further along by this, and I should know this, I shouldn't be feeling this way. And it's like, oh my God, it's expansion time. And like,
is.
look at it in that way. And that's where I like to bring the kind of the frequency
Yeah.
work and the quantum work into working with shadows, because I think it's a beautiful way to do it.
It is, because it supports, it's not just expansion, it's initiation.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I think that if we can look at it as an initiation, then it all changes. Like,
Completely.
the perspective of challenge becomes like, it's where we're on the hero heroine's journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is the part of the initiation where our metal gets tested and it becomes something that is so fertile and, like you identified, like real important turning points in our life that then actually help open up so much more of a vista and another level of experience for us, because we've actually said yes to the initiation, said yes to the challenge, and expanded through that.
Well, that's alchemy, right?
Yes.
Like, everyone's wanting to be better and bigger and more visible and all these different things. But when you look at alchemizing, like, it's the raw material that we need to work with. Like, we don't start with the gold. How do we even get gold?
Yeah.
We have to get the raw material. So if you want to look at it like that, which is how I prefer to look at it, some people might call it, I've heard people calling it toxic positivity. And I'm like, I actually don't believe in that because, I mean, this is the way I see it. Nothing's more important than the way we feel, right? So if I can choose to look at something in a positive way, like this really terrible thing happened to me, I wonder what I'm going to expand and learn from that. That is working with the frequency of my field, which is going to keep me in a place where I can flow more easily. So call it toxic positivity, or you could just talk about caring about myself and my feeling and my healing.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I oftentimes will create this a bit more of a timeline around it. So meaning a not great thing happens, like something that's like objectively like shit, that you're like, oh God, that was horrible or whatever it is. I think proximity, like the proximal response, your initial proximal response, if something shit happens and you're like, oh, I wonder what amazing things are going to happen, that is your toxic positivity,
Absolutely.
right? It's proximal.
Yeah.
So if your immediate response is, I'm great, I'm fine, even though like, oh my gosh, you've just had an accident or whatever. Like you actually need to, for your nervous system, cry,
Feel it,
rage,
express,
feel it.
Yeah.
The proximal response that is appropriate is grief, whatever, like do the thing that your body, your animal body feels like it needs to do. Shake it off. You know, Peter Levine's like Waking the Tiger kind of style. Like let yourself be the animal who's just been attacked and like shake that stuff off. Have an appropriate response to that stimulus. And then as you are proximally distal, further away from the stimulus, then that's when all your field work, your energy field work comes in, and your, you know, like everything you've been trained in or everything that you have been working on can then start to filter into the experience of, okay, maybe I have the space now to consider what this might be telling me.
Yeah. You mentioned, it's just what you just said is, well, it's the nervous system work, right? Which is the foundation of everything. The nervous system responses are not bad. And I think that's what a lot of people think. They're like, I must regulate, I must regulate, I must regulate. In fact, if you look on social media, it's like regulate this, be calm, be relaxed, blah, 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 blah. Why would our body be built with these responses if we weren't meant to feel them? And if we weren't meant to sit in that for a process of time and then allow that to move through our body? So I think you present like a really valuable point there, which is we somatically feel what we need to feel, and we allow that, because if we don't allow that, we then start to become a victim of our circumstance, right? We must let the body have the space to feel what it needs to feel first. So if you look traditionally at something that bad, say, okay, something bad has happened. Like you said, you take the time to be in your response, but we don't want to stay in the response too long, because if we stay in the response too long, that's when our capacity to tolerate life gets smaller and smaller and smaller, or your window of tolerance, blah, blah, blah. So then we pull in our regulation tools, which we've worked with our, you know, our therapist, or maybe knowledge we already have. And then we have this ability to actually observe, like you said, the process of what's happened, what we can take from it, what's still alive in our body, and explore it, whether it's clinically or energetically or, I don't know, in whatever space it needs to be done.
I think sometimes the high vibe, love and light kind of space, which I totally am one of those people, it can get a bad rap because people just love to pigeonhole you and like pigeonhole things, and it's like not a nuanced perspective. It's like taking a snapshot of a process, which is saying, oh, you're just loving and lighting your way through life. And it's like, well, no, actually, yeah, there's a portion of time where that absolutely helps. And it's the two most powerful forces in the world, frankly. But when you've actually had the thing happen to you, you can be be upset. Like do the thing that your animal body wants to do, cry, shout, scream, let it somatically move through you. And then you can let other aspects of your reframe come into being.
And in fact, if you don't allow that process, that's when
shit happens. You stay in the spiral. You stay in the healing crisis, and then it can become this kind of cyclical, almost like it becomes part of your identity, which I
Well,
think
it's
is a
embedded, right?
beautiful, actually, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to talk about. I would love your opinion on this. Where someone comes to you and says, like, you know, this situation always happens to me. These things always happen. Like, I never seem to blah and la 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 la. And it's almost like you're identifying it, and you can see that the stories become part of their identity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work with someone from that place where it's like, this is just how I am. This is who I am. This is what happened to me. How do you?
Okay, well, there's a few things happening here. So that belief of this is who I am is true to a degree. It's true to a part of them. Yeah, but it's not the self. Because the self is the self. It's clear, it's calm, it's curious, it is the self. So there is a part of them that believes that they are a certain way. There may be a belief that they deserve that, which will most likely lead to something to do with in childhood, more than likely. So over time, if something has happened to someone, they are unconsciously or subconsciously trying to heal that process. So they'll keep seeking out the same people, the same situations. They might not even know, they might not be aware that this is actually happening, but what they are noticing is the same thing keeps happening to them. And the tendency is, why me? Why is this happening to me? And that's when we have to dig deep, and that's where therapy comes in, right? And that's when we do need to go back to the past. My supervisor gave me a really great analogy. You know, when we're doing therapy, it's kind of like pulling an arrow. To move forward, sometimes we need to pull it all the way back so that it can shoot further, right? And I love that analogy, and I always give it because there is a reason why you believe what you believe. And there is potentially a part of you that is so strong that is protecting you in a certain way. And it's like, okay, if I go into a relationship, this type of relationship, I'm going to feel better. But then it doesn't. Obviously, it only soothes you for a very short period of time. Or maybe it's an addiction. Or like I'll always revert to having a drink, or I'll always revert to taking drugs or going out or sex or this or whatever. And it's because there's a very young part of you that needs support, right? And you have all these parts, which we talk about I love working parts, that are taking over, essentially. So beliefs, so someone comes in like that, the first step is to look at the nervous system, look at what consistent response that they're in, and to work with that. We would then, if we can, go back to an experience when this first started happening, so that we have a target. A lot of time people can't remember that experience, or maybe it's blocked. So we would take a most current experience. A lot of the time it's relationships for me, but I witness it is a relationship that they're in. So we would take that experience and use, different modalities to process that, to actually be like, what is the core belief there? And what part is involved with that belief?
It's one of those things that I feel like exactly what you've reflected, the relationship piece is one of the perfect portals to arrive in, like, the clarity of what's actually occurring. And I feel like there's a dynamic that happens. I don't know if it's in your clients, but I find it in my clients because they're very deep feeling humans. There's a lot of self-blame that they're in this situation. It's like, because it's like, oh, this is, I know that I'm the master of my destiny and all this. Why do I keep doing this? And I really will always affirm a reframe of, it is not your fault that these things happened, but it is your responsibility now in your power to shift your life and transform what your soul is calling for you to do.
Exactly.
It's your responsibility. Can we be in this place, this nuanced place of not attributing fault, right? Because like deep feeling, sensitive humans want to blame themselves, or it's a default space where they're just like, oh, blaming myself for this because, they think that blaming and taking responsibility are the same thing. It's not. It's like you can be in a space of, oh, I can observe, it's not my fault, and I'm now responsible for moving myself through.
Well, that's essentially
situation.
mindfulness, isn't it? It's the observation, but not becoming the blame and not becoming the shame.
Yes.
Shame is probably one of the most powerful shadows to work with. And I'm sure
Shame
we've
and
all carried
guilt.
it.
Shame and guilt.
And actually, shame, the first step is it thrives in isolation. It thrives when it's in our body and it's in our head, when it's being validated constantly over and over again. What starts to dissemble shame is speaking about it. Speaking about it out loud, speaking about it to people, that starts to shrink it down. And I think shame has a lot to answer for. It's probably the most predominant feelings that I've worked with clients.
Yes.
And especially in relationships, there's this constant, because a lot of the time it's repetitive, right? Because let's talk about women, for example. If they're having repetitive pattern in their relationships, it's normally to do with the father, and they're constantly trying to repair that and get closure, right? So each time there's a failed relationship or the same thing starts to happen, immediately there's so much shame that they put on themselves, and they also don't validate that shame. It makes sense that I feel shame because of that. It doesn't mean that it's true that they are to blame or that they should feel shame, but it makes sense that they feel it because they've had all of these different experiences. So acknowledging that shame is like the first step that I would take. It's very hard to admit shame too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And opening yourself up to that space of letting yourself be held in the sensation of it. I think that's like one of the first entry points in to this work is letting yourself feel safe to be held
Through that. I want to circle back to shame. I have one more thing to say about shame. We've talked a lot about shadow that just happened to pop up with us today, which is amazing. And I want to talk about the shadow of shame. So when we look at shame, which is basically I am permanently damaged, I have done something wrong and there's no repair. And it's just so dark and so deep, however it's showing up for you. The golden part of shame is the key. It's authenticity. I have goosebumps. The opposite of shame, the golden part of shame is authenticity.
Authenticity, which is the highest frequency.
So if you want to be authentic, the shame needs to be faced, not slapped out of you. It actually needs to be faced and it needs to be integrated in some way. Yeah. When you can move shame through your body, when you can sit with it no matter how painful it is, that is the golden shadow of it. Step into who you truly are.
Fully own your shame.
Yeah.
Become authentic.
Yeah.
Vibrate at the highest frequency known to humankind. Because they found that authenticity is, like, it's even way higher than love.
Yeah.
Being your truest self.
It's such an interesting topic, isn't it? Because authenticity, that's what everyone wants. Yet we find ourselves doing all these different things that are not us because we're like still trying to be what someone else wants us to be, what our friends want us to be, what our audience wants us to be, what our clients want us to be, what our family wants us to be, and it's not us. So I would probably put money. I'd be willing to put 1 million rupiah.
Which is about 100 Aussie dollars.
Maybe more than that. I'd actually put a lot more than that.
Yeah.
1 million Australian dollars.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I would put on to, if you are on an authenticity journey where you are trying to discover your truest self, have a look at your shadows. Do it on your own. Do it with a therapist. I don't know, whatever you're called in whatever way. Maybe it's with medicine, plant medicine or something like that, to go to that shadow. Especially
Freaking
shame.
love that.
I love shame.
I love shame. I love shame.
I love shame. I love working with shame.
Love working with the energy of that.
Yeah.
And when you integrate it, that becomes your power. And I actually think that a corollary to shame that I think is truly, like, it's one of those things that I think as soon as you clear it, you actually clear the way for magic, is guilt. So shame and guilt are kind of on the same frequency band. And it's oftentimes, like I say, a corollary to the shame. And so once you've integrated shame, guilt tends to disappear, and you tend to be able to just ride things, and you can be accountable and you can be responsible, but you don't need to be constantly holding a field of guilt, right? A guilt for existing, a guilt for being privileged, a guilt for whatever it is, because guilt is like an anchor in your field.
Even a guilt for being successful.
Yes.
A guilt for having money, a lot of it. Guilt for being, one of these people where just good things just come running towards you. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that. When I started doing this work and started manifesting and incredible things started happening and my work was working, I felt guilt. I didn't talk about it with many people, if any people, because there was like a select couple of people I knew I could do that with. But otherwise I didn't share it because I was like, oh, who am I to be like, all of these great things are happening to me when I created it.
Yes.
When I was like
when you did
brave
the
enough
work
to do the work and these things. So if you look at shame, you look at guilt or regret, that kind of thing, they kind of, those three feelings that we carry and those shadows are, when they're integrated, they open up so much in your life. Because if you don't have regrets, you're able to also make better decisions for yourself, right? But there's a freedom in decision making. You can say yes more.
Yeah.
It's very hard to say yes when you're thinking of maybe what happened last time. Like, let's take relationships again as an example. Let's just say you've had a string of these relationships where the same men are turning up with the same emotional unavailability or narcissism or I don't know, whatever it is. And you're able to move through that regret and guilt and shame. If you don't, it's going to be very hard. Even if you've developed a lot of self-love, it's going to be very hard for you to say yes to new people and to new relationships because it still sits there and it hasn't moved, right? It's still an element of it, even if cognitively you may try and talk yourself into it, which...
do all the mindset work. Yeah.
You can do all the mindset work you like. But if it's still sitting there in your body, it's going to be a reoccurring thing. Yeah. I can kind of guarantee that, unless you work really, really hard, which is exhausting from a cognitive standpoint.
Yes, because it's going to be reflected back at you from the universe, the universal mirror. It's literally like whatever you're holding in your body in your field is going to come back at you quite immediately. And it's funny, we actually experienced that in a rapid way in Bali.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Like one of my most popular YouTube videos is actually talking about that very frankly, like Bali being the mirror of your karma. And it speeds things up because it's an altered dimension. Like we can get like you and I are fully woo. We can talk about that in these sorts of podcasts, but like it's an altered dimension and you experience things even more rapidly here than you would in other parts of the world, just because the land is literally where the two ley lines meet between Uluru and Kailash in Tibet. So here you can see it happen in a day.
It's insane.
In a friggin' hour.
Yeah.
Like the universal mirror reflection happens.
Since we're going woo here, let's talk about collapsing time. It is so easy to collapse time in Bali because of the way the energy moves here. It's insane. Like I've done more, like I've done a lot of work on myself, but the bulk of the work that I've done has actually happened in less than 2 years that I've been in Bali, a year and a half. Actually, it's a year and a half. Yeah. Where it's like lifetimes of stuff and really dark, deep identity, relational, sexual identity, the depths of the depths have been done.
Yep.
Had I not had the capacity or the nervous system or the psyche to handle it, I can see how this would be quite debilitating. and maybe even for people send them into psychosis. I don't know.
Yes.
I can see that it does happen here.
Yes.
Which is again why it comes back to nervous system having the capacity to do this work. But like for me, it's been insane what can happen here and so
Yes.
quickly. And I would like to put this out there to maybe anyone who's watching who is maybe going through this already in Bali or maybe is thinking of moving to Bali. You will be tested and challenged. If I can suggest that you remove any resistance, however that looks for you, work on just not being resisting and going with the flow, because otherwise it is very, very, very hard
And painful.
and painful.
If you don't take the medicine
Yeah.
that is given to you here and you like refuse, I'm thinking of my kitten that I've had to like give little tablets to in the last week and a half. If you resist too much,
Yeah.
Bali does what it does
Yeah.
because it's trying to guide you into the highest path, but it's also got lower fourth dimensional things here that if you just want to drive yourself off a cliff and like completely avoid and distract and numb yourself from a thing, you are gonna experience the pain.
And I want to talk about the type of support you would need in this situation, because I've witnessed and observed a lot of people going through this process. There is so much available to do here, right? Because that's what people come here to do. It's like a vortex of things that you can do.
Yeah.
And what I witness people going is trying to go high too quickly.
Yes.
Whilst I'm in a place where I use, cosmic energy and connection and guides and all these supportive team that we have within us and this medicine we have within us to help us be guided and to help us with direction and to help us to heal, incredible. But if you spend a lot of time up in that realm and you're not grounded into this reality, this process is incredibly debilitating. And I think there's a verse in the Bible, if we can go back to my Christian roots here, where it says, I think it might be in the book of Elijah, maybe, where it's like, beware of false prophets. It's talking about the end times, actually, which, you can look
Which
at it.
everyone's been talking about end times since the beginning of time. So.
Exactly. Like, what are the end times?
Yes.
But beware of false prophets. So my suggestion to people is to really connect with a very grounded practitioner, whoever you're doing work with. Be very careful with plant medicine unless you're doing it with a trusted person. Yes, work with your energetic connection. Yes, work with your intuition to see what's actually calling you. Is there something to be worked through right now, or do you just have to sit with yourself?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
A lot of the time that's the case. The problem is that everyone's looking to fix things, right? And to really work on your capacity to hold yourself in this place. That should be the primary thing. And this is hard, right? Because I'm witnessing people, and the same thing happened to me. When I arrived in Bali, so many things went wrong in my body. I had this wrist that I literally couldn't even move it. It was constantly in pain. It came out of nowhere. Like I was having digestive problems. I was getting headaches. I was getting skin breakouts. Like all these different things were happening to me. I'm really glad I had the wisdom to, at the time, see what was happening and not fight it, because I knew it was pointless going to a doctor. There was nothing a doctor could do for me in this regard.
Yeah.
Initially, I did do that. I was like, okay, let me do blood tests. Let me do this. Like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And then I saw Jim, our beautiful Jim. And Jim, that's when he was like, started to go a little bit deeper and being like, what are you resisting right now? I started using these affirmations, and lo and behold, things started changing in my body. I would be very cautious. And I mean this in the nicest, open, bless everyone in their process and how they work and all of these things. I would be very careful with the kind of work that you're doing. If you're needing to have this big, great breakthrough, huge experience, find the right person to facilitate that. that can actually help you integrate the breakthrough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of breakthrough experiences available in Bali, but there's not a lot of
Yes.
integration work.
There's not a lot of practitioners who can hold you in the stabilization of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a reminder that peak experiences are rarely integrated properly into our nervous system and our somatics. And I think that's what a lot of people are chasing, particularly, you know, like highs of whether or not that's through alcohol, drugs, or any kind of high. It's always, you always have to come back to yourself, right? And that's why people can get into these cycles of always wanting to have these peak experiences, whether it's like with plant medicine and then that kind of gets abused, and then energetics and that can get abused. If you are not sewing it into your body and you don't have a nervous system that can handle the expansion that this higher energy is inviting you into, there's no way you can actually shift your life, because that's the point, right? You want things to change in your external experience. So then you actually need to do the work within yourself to see that change reflected, right? So if you're just constantly peaking and then dropping again and then going, oh my God, but I need to do that again, peaking and then dropping, you're not going to change anything. You're going to stay exactly where you are. You're going to just circle the drain and be like, well, none of this stuff works anyway, right? Because you're constantly seeking something that you cannot fully integrate into your system.
My kutut is burping. I'm like internally, all these burps are coming up as you're speaking, by the way.
Keep doing it. I mean, like that's your authentic self.
No, I've been burping when I've been acknowledging truth.
Yes. Yes.
And that's like the body is like, yes. I would love to speak about this. Okay, exactly what you just said, because what's coming now, and I feel like I just need to speak about it. Let's come back to parts. We have the self. We have our inner child, which feels all the big feelings, all the big emotions, all the not enoughness, all the stress, all the sadness, all the grief, all the things, right? And then we have these parts that come in to control and to manage things, these manager parts. And then we have what I call soothe farts.
Soothe the farts.
Soothe the farts. Soothe the farts.
Are soothing as
Farts
well.
are very soothing. Soothe the parts,
Yes.
or firefighter parts if you want to talk about IFS.
Yeah. Put out the fire. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we develop these parts because the child is so overwhelmed and the protector parts they can't manage things, right? And that comes in, we've already spoken about, like an addiction, sex, drugs, substances, scrolling on Instagram, you know, all these different parts. Now, when we're going through a healing process and we're going into the spiritual world and we're connecting and we're chasing these peak experiences, I want to point something out here. Nothing's changed in your internal family system. The titles have changed. So instead of being addicted to sex, maybe we're addicted to peak experiences. Instead of being addicted to drugs, maybe we're addicted to plant medicine.
Yeah.
So you see, the family just stays the same. It's just what they're doing changes,
The
right?
title shifts.
So the title just shifts. So what we're looking at here is we're still controlled by parts. Even if you've dressed it up with a feather and a hat and a gown and jewels and
the spiritual
some
ego.
cacao and some sage, right? So I just wanted to say that, and that might ruffle a feather, and I don't care. That is what I'm noticing here.
Oh yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of the time, it's still a very unsafe family going on within, where everyone's just trying to numb and push down rather than just sitting with these feelings and being okay to sit with them, rather than grasping at the next healing modality or the next shaman or the next medicine or the next dance party or the next whatever.
Yeah. And you do. You just we just replace it with something else, and it just gets put into this. Well, it's spiritual, so then it must mean something more,
or it's better,
or it appears to be something. But then when you dig underneath, and I'm not going to name the area of Bali, but there is an area of Bali where a lot of people congregate around this sort of thing, but you feel it and you sense it. And it's like, oh, you're actually far more interested in appearing like you have got everything together, or like that you're this magical blah, 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 shaman, wizard, witch, whatever. But are you actually fully integrated? Because I know the people who are actually like true medicine people who can facilitate transformation, they are not needing to appear like they are the case. You think about the people that we go to that like the most unassuming, would never suspect it, don't need to tell everyone, don't need to appear or whatever. And it's like they are the trustable ones.
Well, I won't mention a name, but we've both done medicine with a particular person who would absolutely die if someone called him a shaman.
Yeah.
Like die. But
Like,
he
be
is,
like,
right?
yeah.
He is a medicine man, and he embodies it, and he can integrate it, and, you know, he would never call himself. And then there is another person, we've spoken about Jim, you're like...
Yeah. The
you would
most
not,
unassuming, you would never.
like this Aussie bloke in his Hawaiian
and
shirt.
he's like smoking his
having a
cigarette,
ciggy.
putting it out and being like, okay, love, just go upstairs and da-da-da. And it's like, this guy is a friggin' wizard.
And then Kutut, you would not be able to find her advertising anywhere. She doesn't make contact. You would have no idea.
And we're not going to give you her contact because she's hard enough to get into.
Yeah, exactly.
A month and a half wait. Yeah, exactly.
And they're the kind of people that I like to learn from, to be honest.
Absolutely. Because it's when they don't have to put that.
Yeah.
They're not like shifting names around their internal parts and they don't need to prove themselves. It's like, then the work, their field just speaks for themselves. Speaks for it. You don't need it to appear in a certain way. It just is.
So if you could imagine again, you've integrated all this shame and you are a public figure and you are a person of influence, you know, on social media or whatever, and you have this ability, you've gone through your period of time, you've done your 40 days and 40 nights in the darkness or longer.
Yeah.
And you actually have no need to be seen or heard or be visible or anything like that because you're so busy being you and doing your purpose. Can you imagine what authentically is going to flow towards that vibration that you have? And both of us have experienced that. And I'm not suggesting that we are these healed, like enlightened beings whatsoever. I don't even know what enlightenment is. But what happens when you start to just sit with that stuff? You know, of course, you have some people that you trust that can support you when you really need it, but being able to sit with that darkness, being able to sit with that shame, being able to come to this place where there is no regrets or guilt. And when you do occasionally get it, you're able to sit with it again. What you start attracting is just next level because you truly feel worthy.
Yes.
Like worthy. Me worthy to actually feel that. It is such a beautiful feeling to have, despite it being hard work, to feel and to look at yourself in the mirror and to not just say the words like I love and approve of myself and I am worthy, but to feel it running through every cell of your body. That is why I do what I do, because that is the ultimate love, to not have any judgment to yourself or to whoever around you and to just be like, this is me and I love me. I love this. Like it is safe to be me. It is everything.
It truly is. And we arrive back in safety, don't we?
100%. It all comes back to safety and tissues.
Do we have any tissues? No tissues.
That's okay. I'll just keep crying.
Just let it flow. But that is exactly it.
Yeah.
Safety.
Yeah.
Safety to feel the truth of who we are and to feel worthy of receiving all that our radiant souls are here to magnetize. Right? Like without that guilt or without that sensation of shame or non-worthiness, it's like, can I be free to be me? And I think that is like probably at the core of why we do what we do.
It is. That's what I think what's got me emotional, because it's brought me to this point where I couldn't feel this without feeling all the other depth of the darkness and the gratitude I just have for the people that, you know, a lot of it I held myself, but there have been a select number of people that have held me through those very, very dark times. And that is the golden part of it. Like I couldn't feel that without feeling that. It's like so paradoxical. I feel like life is just like, it's just one huge paradox.
Yeah, yeah.
And something I always talk about in my sessions that I always use, especially within EMDR where we're doing processing of trauma, right, is, you know, you have someone coming in and you're getting an idea of their past, and it's like, yeah, like this happened when I was really young and my parents and da-da-da and da-da-da. And they're like, oh, but they were just doing the best they could. And I'm always like, yes, they did. Can we hold two things? Can we hold that, yes, they did the best they could? Can we also hold that was really, really painful, that was hurtful, and you were really, really young, and that shouldn't have happened. And I feel like we kind of carry this through. I mean, that's how I regulate, right? By being like, can I hold the pain for a second? Can I also hold the fact that, you know, I don't need to take that personally and it was about that person, but also actually right now I'm feeling a little bit hurt. Can I hold that for a second?
Yes.
And now can I go back to holding that I'm safe and it's okay and this wasn't about me?
Yeah.
And we're just like, you know, like a waiter carrying these two plates.
It's the grey and it's the weaving of all of the truths.
Yeah.
I think that nuance is, and being able to hold it is crucial because so many things can be true at once, even if it feels paradoxical and contradictory.
Well, there's so many realities happening all at once, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about quantum
multi-dimensional.
physics.
Oh my God. Where can we get really juicy? Why don't we talk about shame? I think my shame might be around, actually this is a good one. This is around debt and abundance and like what I had previously held within my system based on history. So, and like this is like, again, the nuance of it. Within my body, within my ancestry, my father is Dutch Indonesian, and so I have both the blood of the colonizer and the colonized in me. More predominantly the colonizer. My name is Dutch. And so like even though like it's weaved through, like so if the matrilineal side of my father's side is a lot of Indonesian, the masculine is Dutch. And so for actually quite a lot of time, I carried guilt about my family's role as colonizer.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I recognized that I was like comfortable with debt because I felt like I had a debt to repay the world because of the sins of my family, right? And that carried through even into my father's line and his story of money. You never met somebody who could both attract and lose so much money, like vast amounts. And, you know, like some really horrible stuff happened in my life, like where like we lost everything in my 20s and it's like it's been up and down. And so like I know what it feels like to have the rug completely pulled from under me in regards to like no money. And so I carried this sensation and I didn't know what it was until I started to really do the parts of owning so much of, you know, like what is it that's within my history where it's sort of embedded in my, almost like epigenetically in my cells, right? Atoning for the sins of the father, atoning for the sins of the ancestry. When I looked at that and I looked at, okay, I can acknowledge that the role that my ancestors played on that side and in the Dutch colonizer side, yeah, that's pretty horrendous. There is a debt there. And it is not my responsibility to consistently hold myself in that energy, right? But the shame of it was just in me.
So it was very ancestral, generational shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I owned it as my own.
But you took it on.
It became my own. And so then there's this pattern in my life of like just being comfortable with a bit of debt and like that debt was there and and
it's kind of almost like I deserved to be in debt.
Yes.
Subconsciously maybe having that thought.
Exactly. And just holding myself in it. Like I've always constantly got to owe things.
Yeah.
and owing.
Yeah.
And a lot of like my own dark nights in the last few years was around, okay, wait a second.
Yeah.
Why do I keep attracting this particular situation
Yeah.
in my life?
Mm.
And there were many layers, and I've been held through it by so many skilled practitioners and done the work myself to face it. And the shame of that debt, like once I was able to be in a place of acknowledging, okay, wait a second. It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to arrive in a place where this is no longer the story that's dictating my life. And you've witnessed that.
Oh, yeah.
Like in my time here.
I have witnessed you, Carly, from meeting you until now. So much has happened for both of us, but particularly if we just look at your journey, the expansion and watching stuff flow to you since you've let go of that and since you've since you acknowledged it and confronted it and integrated it. This is what integration looks like, where you're actually like, you know what, I see you, I see the shame, you know, it is not my responsibility to hold this, because this is another thing to remember. Not everything is yours. I say this loosely, it's not a fact, but it is something that I've noticed a lot, is that not everything we hold is ours. And you were able to see that it is not yours to carry. However, I believe, you tell me what you think, that we're in, collectively, there's a lot of work and healing happening, right? There's a lot of stuff that I've processed that wasn't mine, but it was fallen on me to actually have the physical process of it. So I wonder, and this is nothing, there's no research that I know about on this. I haven't read anything. This is just a thought that I have, and it feels very real. It feels true for me, is that we are the ones, and maybe within sort of a 15 or 10-year gap between us downwards, are the ones that are actually healing ancestral and generational trauma. It is falling upon us because they weren't able to have the space, because somewhere between ancient healing and then there's like this huge gap where people, you know, in a lot of cultures weren't given space to actually process.
Yeah. Yes.
It's built up and it's been handed on and on and on, which is why for some of us it feels harder than it really should be.
Yes, I agree. I think a lot of our previous generations were not equipped and weren't given the space or capacity.
Yeah.
Capability to do that. And so, yeah, I believe that we are those generational, like it stops with us.
Yeah, it does stop with us, which is, it kind of sucks.
It kind of sucks. But also
but at the
is
same
extremely
time,
liberating.
it's extremely liberating.
Because on the other side, like how fucking epic.
Yeah, and also like, I just don't want to carry that around. No. It's not mine to carry.
No.
But it's there somewhere, so it needs to move.
Yeah.
Like I can't just go, oh, bye.
Yes.
It needs to have, you know, a ceremony or a space where it
be
can
integrated.
Move. Yeah.
Yes. And like on the other side, it feels liberating. It feels like I just kind of, I know, can't even, almost don't have the words for it. It's why I just had to go to the Bali silent retreat and integrate, because it's like been such a big time for me, having moved through that space into even more authenticity, because that's what arrives, right? The shame is integrated, the authenticity arrives, and the authenticity arrives. Some people leave our lives.
Well, we can talk for another hour about that. Let's jot this down for the next one.
I know. And then it's like the grief of that, and then the processing of that, of like,
Yeah.
okay, so as I become more and more of who I am, people in my life.
You lose. Because it's the law of attraction, right? The universe will bring more to you of what you are. And it will take away things that are not you for you. And this is not a judgment on anyone, because we want to be in love. And love is judgment. It is saying, for this season and for this chapter, like this person is not supporting you, and they go and have their experience. And we're actually doing them a favor by being ourselves, because we are leading.
Yes.
We have to. We have to be like, I don't actually know how you can lead fully if you're not yourself.
Exactly. And we all have roles to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And that's also important too, right? It's also our process. Like if I started going back to my regrets, which I've integrated, I would have done so much more.
Yes.
but I had to go through my process, and I had to probably be someone else's trigger and enemy and all these different things,
Yes.
right?
The poster child of projections. Haven't we all been that at some point? Like, oh gosh, look at all that stuff that she's doing. And it's like, oh yeah, well maybe it's me.
Just one thing, one last thing to chat about, which will be super quick, and maybe we'll talk about this more in another time, but I think when we can let go of shame and guilt and regret, this opens up what we're all here for, right? Which is to be connected to our hearts and to love. Because whilst we're in that, there's so much judgment, and judgment is the opposite.
Separation.
And that's an interesting subject which I'd love to talk about more another time, because that's what I keep getting drawn to with every level or every learning or every step that I'm taking. It's like, it still just comes back to the heart. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what closes the heart? And it just always comes back to judgment. And there's so many things. It's like a primary, shame is, the primary feeling, but there's so much under that. And judgment is very, very much under that.
Yeah. And it keeps us separate from.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole piece of judgment, being that out there is something that I don't want to, like that's that thing, and it's definitely not me. It's definitely not me. But it's like, where can we get to a place where, like, I love the word discernment, that we can discern that certain things, places, people, whatever, are just not for us, and that's it.
And this part,
right. And this, it's like, that's just it. It doesn't need to have like
intuition, whatever.
It doesn't need to be because of, you don't need to justify, have a long list of like this person's XYZ, because that's just a list of the things that you've probably not integrated within yourself, right? Because you're like, we all have the capacity to be assholes.
Yeah.
In many different respects.
I mean, that's the first step of shadow work. I have the capacity to
be everything.
I can manipulate.
Yeah.
I have the capability of manipulating.
Of course. And it's a gift when used properly, right?
Yes. Well, the opposite of manipulation is inspiration, right?
Yes.
You can inspire and lead.
Yes, exactly.
But stating that is the first step. Like we all have the capability of being an arsehole.
Absolutely. And
but we can at least be a good arsehole. As my friend likes to wisely tell me, who's just a great arsehole.
Exactly. Let us be in that space of knowing that we are capable of all of the things that we judge people of, and that we can also still discern, okay, hanging out with this person isn't right for me at this time. Doing this
and
thing
there's no judgment
isn't right.
on the person.
And it's no judgment. And it's no judgment on doing a certain thing. It's all right, okay.
Can we please talk about this for the next one?
Yes.
Because this is like an extensive subject I would love to chat about.
Me too. Me too. Freaking epic. All right.
Okay.
Darling.
Oh, that was great.
Thank you.
I could just keep chatting.
We could
Thank
just
you
talk
so much.
the whole time. Like, spotlight.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for your brilliance.
Thank you for your brilliance.
I love you.
I hope that one day I will be even more as eloquent as you.
Oh, excusez-moi. You're so eloquent.
But no, I'm complimenting you. Receive.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for the reminder. Receive.
I'm reminding you that you are exceptionally good at talking. Oh. Exceptionally. And I know that I'm good too, but you inspire me to more.
Yes.
Thank you, madam. Should we take a photo of each other?